Welcome to month 9 of Cheshire Quilters Guild 2019 Block of the Month, Cat Den Mountain Quilts BOM. This month we're going to make block 9, Girl's Favorite, which starts with us making some flying geese again, just like we did last month. So in the same way, I'm going to take my small squares of fabric G and draw lines on the back of all 4 of them. Okay, once I've got the lines drawn, I can lay 2 of the small squares on the large square of fabric F, stitch down either side, cut apart, etc. I'll meet you back here when we're at the point where we need to trim up the flying geese. If you need a reminder, just go back to the video for month 8 and you can get a reminder on how to finish up your how to make your geese. These are going to be trimmed to a rather peculiar size, so be sure and join me back here to trim them up. Okay, now that we've got the units made, I'm going to take a ruler such as this one that's got the 45-degree angles that intersect at the corner at the 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to lay those 2 45-degree angles on the seams of each unit and trim it off. Now that's going to make that seam nice and square relative to the shape of our flying geese unit. Now I'm going to turn the unit over and trim the width of the unit to 2 5/8. Now I've got a nice straight edge that I can put the 5/8 line on, and I'm going to go up, oops, sorry, I went 7/8. 2 5/8. That's the 5/8 mark, and I'm going to trim off the top part. Okay, so now we've got the width the correct amount. Now to get the length correct, we want the overall length to be 4 3/4. So I'm going to measure 2 3/8, which is half of 4 3/4, off of one end, and then I should be able to just turn the other end, put the 4 3/4, my 2 5/8, 4 3/4. I'm at 2 5/8, and I can trim off this other end. So that gives me a 2 5/8 wide, 4 3/4 long unit. Let me show that to you again. I've got 4 of these to trim, so I'll show you one more and then I'll leave you to trim the other 2. I'm going to take my 45-degree lines and I'll put the lines right on the seams of my flying goose. And once I have them in position, I can trim off one edge. Rotate the unit around, and now I'm going to measure my 2 5/8. 2 5/8 along the bottom allows me to trim off the little bit I need to trim off the top. Now 2 3/8, which is half of 4 3/4. 2 3/8. Trim off one side, rotate it around, and now do my 4 3/4. Which is right there, and again I should be right at 2 3/8 in the middle, and I can, oops, I lay that on there again. I messed it up. I wiggled when I should have waggled. I wiggled when I shouldn't have done anything. So there's another flying geese unit 2 5/8 by 4 3/4. So now that I have those to trim up, I'll trim the other two, and then I'll meet you back here for the next step. So now that we have our geese done, we're going to take and sew 2 of them on either side of our fabric H square. And the other 2 geese, we're going to sew 2 fabric E squares on either end. This all together is going to become the center of our square, of our block. Okay, I've got these pieces made. I've pressed to the squares on all 3 pieces. Now I'm going to sew these together, and then I'm going to press these 2 seams open. Alright, so there's our middle finished with these 2 seams pressed open. So now we're on to make some half square triangles and, well, sort of half square triangles. We're going to use our fabric A and fabric F rectangles, and what we're going to do this time is we're going to draw a line dividing this one in half, the rectangle in half, and then we're just going to draw diagonals from the upper corners to the bottom middle. And we're just going to stitch, as we've done before, we're just going to stitch on either side of the 2 diagonal lines. Meet you back here because we're going to do something a little bit different with these. Now that we've got those 2 sewn, I'm going to cut on the 3 lines that we've drawn. So there's a vertical line and the 2 diagonals. The next thing to do will be to press, and in this case we're going to press these seams open. So I'm going to press the seams open on each one of these half square triangles. Meet you back here when they're all pressed. So here they are, all pressed seams open, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these in half from corner to corner to make 8 sections. And you'll notice that they're mirror. When I cut one in half, you get mirror image, and that's important. So we want to keep the pairs together because each pair will be used on the same corner of our block. Okay, so let me cut this last one. There we go. Now, what we're going to do with these 4 is we're going to arrange them so that nope, that's not right. We're going to arrange them like this. So the straight edges of the triangular units are going to line up with the 2 sides of the square, sew it on, press it away, and then you can line up the other 2 sides, sew it on, and press away. Now if they bother you, you can go ahead and nip those dog ears off before you continue. So I'm going to sew on one side, press toward that added triangle, and then I'm going to sew on the other side. So I'm going to make a total of 4 of these corner units. Okay, so there's a corner unit, and I'm just going to nip off that dog ear just to get it out of our way. These are the corners of our block, and so let me show you how these are going to go together. So this unit is basically on point, and if I raise it up a little, you can see how these pieces are going to go on the sides, and each one of these is going to line up here so I can match these seams on the sides as I sew those on. And then these seams can be pressed whichever way you want. I'll probably press 2 of them in and 2 of them out, or even more likely probably going to press all of them open. So let me go ahead and do that and sew these 4 corners on, and then we'll see what our finished block looks like. And there we have block 9, girl's favorite. There's a few little dog ears, so I'm just going to use my 12.5-inch ruler to trim off the edges so that we have a perfect block. And that's it for month 9 of Cheshire Quilters Guild 2019 block of the month. Girl's favorite. Next month we're going to be making the repeated chain blocks that form the rest of the inside of the quilt. We're going to be making full blocks, half blocks, and quarter blocks. So see you next month for Cheshire Quilters Guild 2019 block of the month, Cat Den Mountain, BOM.